day to you. How's your reading been so far this year? Welcome or welcome back to Francesca's Books. My name is Francesca, these are my books, and here we talk about all things thriller books. I'm your thriller girly, if you will. And today I'm going to run you through all the books I've read so far in 2025 and whether you should read them or not. Basically like a smash or pass for books. So far in 2025 I have read 19 books, the majority of which are thrillers. I do have an odd romance or contemporary like thrown in there, however, mainly thrillers, as we say. I do have most of them in physical form, which is quite rare, but of course some I've just read on Kindle as well. So maybe before we dive into the books, which book do you think is my top pick of the year so far? Like, comment and then see if you're right later. And as always, if you enjoy this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. So I of course started the year off strong with the woman of the moment, the backlist I'm currently working my way through. It is of course Mary Kubica, so I read Just the Nicest Couple as the very first book of the year, and this is one of her newer releases. I think it's her second to latest publication, and it is good. It's definitely better now, I can compare to some of her like earlier work. I feel like her most recent books are her better books, which I think is quite rare. I think especially with thriller authors, I feel like they go in rogue directions after a little while and you're kind of like, oh, I still am vibing with this author. Mary Kubica, on the other hand, I think started in like a suspense place and has kind of dived more into like the thriller area. So anyway, I like this one. So this follows two couples, and the husband of one of the couples goes missing like right at the start of the book. Obviously the wife is like frantically looking for her, and then the other couple both have these like weird suspicious movements around the events, but they have no motive. Like there's no reason why they should be involved, but they're still like, we need to kind of just come up with a cover story. Like, we don't look good in this situation. This was like a suspenseful thriller, but in a fantastic way. Normally when I use the word suspense, it's to be like, oh, there's not enough thrill in it. But this one actually was a book that kept me on the edge of my seat, and I like really felt like I was there with these characters. There was quite a few scenes in this like woodland area where the husband was last seen, and when I was there, like I felt like I was in the woods. It was really good. So I gave this one 4 stars. Then I read This Book Will Bury Me by Ashley Winstead, which came out just at the start of this year. I read it pretty much as soon as it came out because I was super excited, but this one was a miss for me. I think there's a number of reasons. Like, I'm not rating this low for like one specific thing. I think it's just a combination of everything, and I really love Ashley Winstead as an author, so I was just as disappointed as you guys. Probably a lot more disappointed. So it follows this woman Jane whose dad has recently passed away, and so for all my people who need like a dead parent trigger warning, do not read this book. Like, it wasn't like, oh, my dad's died, I'm going through all this, like, you know, and giving her like a backstory. It was graphic. Do not read it if you have a So after Jane has lost her dad, she decides, like, with all this grief and energy, she's going to put it into like amateur sleuthing basically, and gets involved in this like online community almost of sleuths. It's a bit of a take on Armchair Detectives, but like in a social media world. However, here's where the problems start. It is based on a real life case that still hasn't gone to trial yet, and I appreciate that thriller authors do of course take inspiration from true crime and things that are really happening in the world. Like, how else would you kind of like formulate these plots? However, this was almost a carbon copy, and while I don't really want to go into like my feelings on that like right now in like loads and loads of detail, it was just enough for me to immediately kind of feel a bit icky about the situation. Then secondfold, I just felt like this book dragged so much. Like, it just go on and on and on, and I think the pacing wasn't right for me, the subject matter wasn't right for me. I was already not in a great space at the start of the book because of the whole dead dad situation, so it was just an overall miss for me. But I feel like that's maybe a justified explanation, because it's rare I'll come on here and just completely be like, no, don't recommend, because there's always like positives in books, and we always have different opinions and different feelings on like who would enjoy specific books. But this one, I'm not sure I'd recommend to anyone unless you were like really into your true crime before you were into thrillers and you wanted to see a different take on that, maybe. I don't know. Then this year I've been participating in Tandem Collective Thrills and Chills Book Club, as they're like super sleuths. So they are a book marketing platform that work with Amazon Publishing, and they have like a book every month that's been coming out for the last 6 months, like new releases, and I've just been talking about them with the team and making like some cool videos around it, which has been really fun. So the first book, which was January's book of course, was The First Girl by Claire McGowan, and I had also read Let Me In by this author, so this wasn't a new author to me, and this was another one that was quite like true crime slash psychological thriller. I enjoyed this a lot more than This Book Will Bury Me because the concept was a lot more simple, it was a lot more easy to follow, the pace was better. It's also set in Yorkshire in England, which was very exciting. I don't live too far away from there at all, so it was kind of like you could almost like trace these steps, like you could kind of like almost relate a little bit more. Of course, to my like US viewers, that's probably going to be like, okay, but I enjoyed it. There was also like a really small romantic subplot. I feel like if a thriller book has that, it automatically gains like another star from me. I just very much enjoy it. However, I didn't rate this higher than like a 3.5 because I did feel like it was just what it was, if that makes sense. It wasn't groundbreaking, but it had everything in the setup that it needed to be. Then I read another Mary Kay Beaker, so I picked up The Other Misses, and I quite like this one. This one had some tropes which I don't normally get on with, but this author kind of like pulled it off. And I was really impressed that she did because it takes a lot for me to like get on board with this style of book. So we're following Sadie and Will, a married couple with a couple of kids. They move more to like the countryside away from the city. I'm assuming Chicago, I can't remember. I read this one quite early in the year. To have a complete fresh start, the husband was having an affair where they lived before, and they were like, right, we're gonna make a go of this, we're gonna buy this house and everything's gonna be good and it'll be fine. Then one day the wife witnesses a unaliving in the town, and it kind of spirals from there. This is told from Sadie's point of view, another woman, Camilla's point of view, who is absolutely obsessed with Will and is always like watching him like from everywhere, like she's like stalking him. And then there's another point of view of a child, and I feel like I'm not going to tell you any more about this one. This is probably a go into it blind after I've said all that about it. But yeah, just go into it blind as you can. Then I read the wonderful Abby Jimenez's latest release, Say You Remember Me. I managed to get an advance copy of this. This didn't come out until April, so I was over the moon. I loved the Part of Your World series. I come in here and talk about it all the time, so I'm not even going to recap. But Say You Remember Me was like a long distance romance, which kind of just irked me, honestly. Like, Abby Jimenez's writing is phenomenal. The way she writes these characters, like, it just scratches an itch like I didn't even know I had. They're so emotive and real and have the best like all-round characters. There's some incredible supporting characters, and this applies to all of her books. But this one I did only rate 4 stars, and I feel like it's because our characters just couldn't decide which side of the states to live on together. Like, they're so in love with each other. So our female main character in this book goes on this date with this guy. He's like very persistent. She's like, yeah, okay, but you do have to realize I'm literally leaving tomorrow to go to like the other side of the country. I don't know. So they have an amazing day, and they're like, well, let's just like keep in touch. Like, obviously we can, you know, make this work. And it is the journey of them trying to make it work. And I think for me, it was just a little bit frustrating because I appreciate all circumstances are different. And I'm not saying, you know, it's fiction at the end of the day. It just wouldn't happen to me. Like, you just want to be with a person that you love. Like, you would just move. Like, and I get there had to be like a real reason for our female main character to have to be in the place that she's moved to. Won't really say too much about that because you kind of have to read it to like work out the circumstances. And she does, but I don't know. Just make it work. I'm sorry. That's why it was rated down a star. Next up, I read one of my favourite books so far this year, and it is Message Deleted by K.L. Slater. This was only my second book by this author. I read her maybe like 2 or 3 years ago and really enjoyed it, and don't know why I didn't pick up more. And then when I found out this book was set on the outskirts of Nottingham, I was like, I have to read it. I literally have to read it. So this follows a woman who gets a text from her friend that is like, please come and help me, like don't call me, don't text me back, like just come here, like I really need you, I'm in so much danger. And the friend is obviously like, oh my god, what the hell, drops what she's doing, goes to see the friend who's supposedly in distress, and she gets there and literally nothing is happening. Like, everything's fine, she's just with her family, and she goes and she's like, well, you literally texted me to come. She's like, no, I didn't. So with that, she checks her phone and the messages have been deleted, which would be like, oh, kind of weird, don't know where this book would go, until the friend actually goes missing and genuinely would have needed help. This just had such a great premise. Like, it's something that I hadn't seen ever. Like, I've never even seen technology really been brought into thrillers like this, so I was very interested to pick it up. And then when I did, I was so glad I did. I gave this 4.5 stars. The characters were complex, the twists were great, and it was just overall like a really, really solid thriller. I didn't rate it 5. I did knock off at the half star just because towards the middle it dragged slightly. I mean, I'm probably been picky at this point, but it's a 400-page book, and I feel like I get on better with like the 350 mark. I feel like this could have been 50 pages less, but I still very much enjoyed it. Definitely recommend this. Definitely go read this. And then I reread The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. I found out this was being adapted into a film and was like, I need to read it I haven't read it in like 2 years. So I read it again, I gave it 5 stars again. It's brilliant, it's wonderful, it's basic but twisty, and there's great characters, and obviously we all know it's been turned into a series, and which has been really popular as well. However, the first one, there's just something about it. This is just like quintessentially Frida McFadden at her best. I don't think many other of her books could even compare, and there's a reason it's her most popular. If you're literally brand new to thrillers and have no idea, you've never seen this book before, it follows a woman who goes to work for a really wealthy family as a nanny, gets put up in this attic room that looks really dodgy, only locks from the outside. She's gaslit by the whole family and is like, what is happening? And that's the concept. And then next I read Don't You Cry by Mary Kubica, another one to tick off. And this follows a woman whose roommate in Chicago, somewhere downtown Chicago in a flat, they always are, goes missing, and she's like, what is happening? Like, has she just upped and left? Like, she's calling her, like, it's all really not good. And then there's another point of view of a guy who works in a coffee shop, and he sees this really like enigmatic woman come and sit in the corner every day. He's watching her, he's like, what is she doing? And we have both these timelines. Of course, they cross over at parts, and it was a really good solid thriller, but that's all this one was for me. It's not Mary Kubica's best, but I would probably put it somewhere in the middle so far. Did enjoy it, gave it 3.5. It is what it is. Then I read Orbital by Samantha Harvey, and this was a complete like drop in the ocean, no pun intended, for me. I don't know really what drew me to this. It's very, well, it's not a thriller to start with, so let's just manage expectations there. It is this like tiny little book. It's 130 pages, and it follows these 6 astronauts in space, and they're kind of watching the Earth over 16, I think it's cycles or something they call it. 16 orbits. Obviously. And it's kind of like about their relationship with the Earth and kind of with each other, but I'm going to caveat, literally nothing happens in this book. It's more a love letter to our planet. That's the best way I can describe it. At one point there was like talk of these typhoons somewhere over Asia, and I was like, oh my god, like somebody's, I don't know, something is going to be in them, or you know, there's going to be some sort of like thrilling aspect. I'm not really going to say anymore. So I gave this 2.5 because I didn't really feel like I could rate it either way, because there wasn't really enough to rate. The writing was absolutely poetic, and I love the actual physical words on the page, but in terms of a story, straight down the middle. Then I read The Last One at the Wedding by Jason Rekerlak when this came out earlier this year, and I loved Hidden Pictures, so I was very, very excited to give it a read. And it was just okay. It was just okay. It was a lot more suspense than thrill. It wasn't really like classic thriller, like Hidden Pictures style, where you're like, oh, you know, it was just kind of like there to see. I don't know. So it follows this woman who's getting married into this really wealthy family, like wealthy beyond belief. So we've got a little bit of rich people drama going on, which I of course do very much enjoy, and it was thrilling rich people drama. It wasn't just like rich people drama for the sake of just being catty. So it's told from the point of view of her dad, and she is estranged from him. So one day the dad gets a call and she's like, please dad, like please come to my wedding, like it would really mean a lot to me. You know, you can meet the fiance first. And he's like, do you know what? Yeah, like, yeah, it's time to make amends or whatever. So they meet, he's not really sure, but he's like, fine. They go to the wedding, and his sister comes along with him and the child that she's currently fostering. This was a fantastic subplot, just as a little side note. Dad's sister fosters, and this child brought like a different layer to a thriller than you would normally get. Like, it was a different storyline. Very much enjoyed it. She was quite a prominent character, even though I don't feel like that was the way it was intended. I just found it that way, and I really enjoyed that. Very different. But back to the main storyline, everything just unfolds, and you know, with these rich people, the wedding was never going to go as anticipated. There is unaliving, there is backstabbing, there's a mum who's like bedridden, really, really ill, can't get up, but then he sees her outside. Like, it's all, you know. I didn't race through this one. I thought the pacing was a lot slower. It was like a thriller without the thrill, in a way. But now I'm talking about it, I did enjoy it, I think, more than I thought. So I originally gave this a 3.5. Maybe it's more like a 4. Then I read Expiration Dates by Rebecca Searle. This was a rom-com that I picked up when I was over in America, and just really liked the cover and the concept. So it's a romance, but it's kind of like a little bit of magical realism, and it follows this woman who every time she starts dating somebody gets a piece of paper with their name on and the length of time that this dating or relationship will last. And then one day she gets a piece of paper with this guy's name on, and no, expiration date. So it was a bit of a different spin on a rom-com and I very much enjoyed it. I think there was less romance than I was anticipating. It was heavy on the com of the rom-com, and I just feel like this would be a really good palette cleanser if you want something different that's not like super romantic plot heavy. Then probably my favourite book of the year so far is The Last Party by A.R. Torre. I gave this 5 stars. I loved it. I'd read The Good Lie by this author before and like it was good. No pun intended. It was good, but not amazing, and then it's taken me a long time to like reach for this author again, and I am so glad I did. This was a 5 star. Absolutely loved it. It follows this woman who's really obsessed with a serial unaliver, and she will do anything to get his attention. So he's currently in jail serving like prison time, and she just plots against all these people, including her family, just to get his attention. And I'm like, do you know what, Queen? Like, kind of, yeah. But it wasn't just that. She was a great character. There was great supporting characters. The twists were perfectly timed. I would highly recommend this. Then I read Look Closer by David Ellis, which you guys have been telling me to read for a very long time. Again, I enjoyed this, but it wasn't a 5 star. I think maybe my expectation was too high because I was going in like, oh my god, I'm gonna love it, I'm gonna love it. I actually read this and the next couple of books in a 24-hour reading vlog, so I'll pop the link up if you wanna go and watch like my live reaction to that. But it was, yeah, it was just good. It was just a good solid thriller for me. Actually, maybe thinking about it, this may be more like a 4.5. I did really enjoy it. I think I was just coming off another couple of books, which was just like, no. So it follows Simon and Vicky. They're this couple and they are so like, their lives are just so complicated. Like, this was so intricately woven in terms of its plot. I'm not sure how all these little details came together so well, but they did. It opens with an unaliving on Halloween, but you don't know who's done the unaliving, and you're kind of working back from there. But I quite like this because the unaliving's on Halloween and everybody's obviously masked because they're out trick-or-treating and stuff, so they're like, well, this is the best time to get away with it. There was also a huge unreliable narrator trope, but not in like a they drink too much so they're unreliable way, which is my favourite kind of unreliable narrator trope, and the twists were really good as well. So I'm going to up this. I think it's a 4.5. Next up, I managed to read an advanced copy of Lisa Jewell's next book, Don't Let Him In. This is obviously like an advanced cover, that's why you've not got the normal title on the front. I was so excited to read this, literally so excited. Again, I vlogged it in the 24-hour vlog if you want to go and watch that, but this was a miss. This was a miss, I think. And I'm quite grateful that the other people I've seen reviewing this ahead of time have also agreed with me. It's not like I don't think I'm the anomaly. I feel like it's this writing style or this like what she's tried to go for. I just don't think this was a thriller. Like, I think it's just a story. It's just a contemporary story, like domestic noir, if you will. It was jam-packed with men behaving badly and was a wild ride. Like, it was quite wild reading it, and I feel like if I'd have read it maybe over a few days, I may have been happy to like dip in and out of it. But for me, there was just so many characters. We're talking maybe like 20, 25 plus characters, all with their own like thing going on. And the basic concept again was a girl that had lost her dad, and the dead dad's friend kind of came into the scene and was like being friendly with the wife and trying to get the child on board, and I don't know, just felt icky, all of it. And I was just a bit like, I wanted so much more for this. And then I read one of my only other 5 stars of the year so far, and it is Hide and Seek by Andrea Mara. I am just loving this author. The concept of this, don't get me wrong, is quite, like, it's kind of done. It's like, child goes missing, dual timeline of now looking for said child, and 30, I think it's like 25, 30 years ago of like what happened in the neighborhood. And I don't know, it just came together so well. Like, I really love these characters. I feel like the twists were done absolutely impeccably, and I just don't really have a bad word to say about it, apart from the fact it's just like an Olden but golden. Like, that's the only way I can describe it. I feel like this is something you would see in a charity shop and just like glance straight over and be like, oh no, I'm going for like the bestsellers. Little spoiler as well, I just got in the mail. And then I read The Favourites by Elaine Fargo, and this again isn't a thriller, but like hear me out on this one, because I feel like it's not a palette cleanser, it's one for the thriller girls. So it's like this really fast-paced, dramatic story about these 2 ice dancers, and if you don't really know anything about that world, you're probably like, eh. And I was as well, I'm not gonna lie. I did go in thinking I don't really care, but after about 10 pages, I was invested. Like, this is very like Taylor Jenkins Reid storytelling. It was like so drama filled, so many twists for a non-thriller book. Like, I was like, and it's told in the current timeline of events that are going on, which is set over 20 years, which means that you can get that real fast pace, like you turn the page like another 6 months has gone by and they're filling you in on what's happened. Loved that. And there's also like these other snippets of what we think is like a documentary style interview on their lives over the 20 years, but it's been told from like in one timeline, in present day, like just a recording. I feel like I'm not doing this justice. It is so good. I gave it 5 stars. It had me hooked. It had me feeling giddy. It had me feeling scared. This is what I want from when I'm not reading my thriller book. It is exactly this. So February's book for Tandems, Thrills and Chills was You Kill Me First by John Mars, which I'd already read an advance copy of in December. So I didn't include that in February's wraps, obviously. And then going over to March, now this is one of the more recent books I've read, and it is Play with Fire. So this was their March pick, and it was a detective story, which I don't typically love, but if you're gonna read a detective story that's not Claire McIntosh, I would check out this author. I gave it a 4 star, and for a detective crime style thriller, I think that's really generous for me. I feel like if I was into detective fiction, I would probably rate it a lot higher. I just feel like it's just not for me, like this area of thrillers, but I still very much enjoyed it. And I think because the characters were so developed, and I feel like our main lead detective also being a woman kind of helped me follow the narrative a little bit more, and some of like the challenges she faced within the police was quite interesting. I also loved the fact that this seemed to tie up at the 80% mark. It was like, oh yeah, all done, nice with a bow. And I was like, hang on a minute, we've got like this much left. What's going to happen? This is also part of a series too. I have not read the first 2 books. I did read this as a standalone, but if you feel like you might like it, I probably would go back and read them in order if you're after something like this. And then the next book is a bit random. Like there was no real reason for me to read this. It was one that's been on my shelf for ages, but I finally got to it. And it is When I Was 10 by Fiona Cummings. I had not read anything else by this author, which is why as well it's just a bit rogue, but I enjoyed this. It was a solid thriller. It was brilliant. It was really good. It wasn't 5-star territory, but it was good. Definitely recommend. I feel like this was very Lucinda Berry, but in like the best way. It was told in a dual timeline of these girls who, when they were younger, one of them had unalived their parents, and there was a lot of flashbacks to like that time in their lives. And then in present day, one of the sisters wants to tell the story to the media, and the other one's like, why now? Like, what is happening? There's also a journalist point of view, which I very much enjoyed. I think I preferred the scenes that were set in the past. I feel like they were really intense, especially because these girls were like 10 and 12. It was very like, it was touch or go for them. This was one where I did kind of see the ending coming, but there was so many red herrings that at the same time I was like doubting myself, if you know what I mean. So I definitely recommend this, but I don't think I would like very quickly reach for more books by this author. I feel like this was just maybe a one and done for me. And then the final book that I read in the first 3 months of this year is Pretty Baby by Mary Kubica, and this follows a woman who sees a really young woman, like 16, 17, with a baby, and they're just like on the station platform, but it's throwing it down and they're looking in really like bad health, and the woman's just like, this is so sad, like, is she okay? And then that's it, she gets on a train, she goes about her day. Then she sees her again and is like, I need to do something to help. Her real job is like looking after in some sort of social work and social care, so I think she feels like a bit obliged. And then at the time after that, she's like, please just come in this restaurant, let me buy you some food. And then slowly she starts to like look after this girl and the baby, and then next thing they're back at the house, and then next thing they've stayed over a couple of nights, and it's all very like, you wouldn't do that in real life, but at the same time, for a fictitious thriller book, it kind of worked. This was probably the slowest burn Mary Kubica book that I've read, but not in a bad way. I feel like for this story specifically, it needed that sort of pacing. I think if it was any faster paced, it maybe wouldn't have worked, but I enjoyed it 3.5. So those are the 19 books that I read in the first 3 months of 2025. I feel like it's been like a mixed bag. I think my favourites definitely were The Last Party and Message Deleted. I think in terms of worst books, I'm probably not gonna like pick them out because it's a little bit savage. But those are the 2 that I would take from this video if you are looking for recommendations. So if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe as always, and I cannot wait to see you next time.